Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Wednesday, March 22nd, 2017.
Commissioner Rivas, Repenning, James, Davis, and Jacinto are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Craig Shaw, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Hassan Rod, Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Sunny Patel, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Brett McReynolds, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment. We also do not have any commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We did receive speaker cards on items number 2 for today's agenda.
Okay, we'll close general public comment as well as the Neighborhood Council category of commentary. A couple of housekeeping items. Agenda item number 5, a partial release of a stop notice, Walters Wholesale Electric Company, transmitting their second partial release of a stop notice in the amount of $2,530.23, reducing the total stop notice from $8,544.86 to $6,014.63 for furnishing electrical supplies in connection with the Laurel Canyon Boulevard Bridge widening over Tahunga Wash project. The contractor is CPO Enterprises Incorporated. Is there a second to my motion that we receive agenda item number 5 forthwith? By Commissioner Jacinto. Any objection? With that objection, we will do that. Agenda item number 3, specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids in Council District 14. This is for secondary sewer renewal program. El Sereno Avenue in Edison. The estimate's $7,109,000. The bid receipt date is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017. Is there a second to my motion that we adopt agenda item number 3 forthwith by Commissioner Jacinto and Davis? Any objection? With that objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 4. Specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids, Council Districts 8, 9, 10, 11, and 15. For landscape maintenance, median islands at specific locations in the Bay Harbor. And the estimate for this one is $546,358.68. The bid receipt date is Wednesday, April 19th, 2017. In Council Districts 3, 5, 6, 7, and 12, for the landscape maintenance of median islands in the West Valley, estimates $469,885.86. Bid receipt date also Wednesday, April 19, 2017. For Council Districts 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 13, and 14, landscape maintenance of median islands at specific locations in the East Valley. Estimate $446,496.48. Bid receipt date Wednesday, April 19, 2017. And Council Districts 1, 4, 5, 9, 10, and 14, for the landscape maintenance of median island at specific locations in the north and central sections of the city. Estimate $397,884.96. Bid receipt date on Wednesday, April 19, 2017. Is there a second to my motion that we adopt agenda item number 4 forthwith? By Commissioner Davis. Any objection? With that objection, we will adopt agenda item number 4 forthwith. Agenda item number 1, Construction Services Contract, Capital Improvement Project, Los Angeles Glendale Water Reclamation Plant, Channel 4 Diversion Gate Project. Recommending that the board first authorize the city engineer to sole source Krone tidal flux, flow meter, and rotorque actuator. That's a portion, I think less than 10% of the full amount of the not to exceed amount. And secondly, authorize the city engineer to use the Cisco contract, which is the construction services contract, not Cisco, the company, and to issue task work orders to the contractor for an amount not to exceed $600,000 for the LAGWRP project. Crystal Lee, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and Bureau Executives. My name is Crystal Lee. I'm the Project Manager at Bureau of Engineering, Environmental Engineering Division. I'm here to represent the Capital Improvements Project, Los Angeles Glendale Reclamation Plant, Channel 4 Diversion Gate. We are requesting that the board authorize sole source for Krone flow meter and Rotork actuator, and also the use of Cisco Contract 9 to issue task work orders for an amount not to exceed $600,000. At LAG WRP, there are 4 main phases to the wastewater treatment process. Between the primary sedimentation, biological nitrogen removal process, tertiary filtration, and disinfection, the secondary and tertiary, there is a channel 4 bank that the secondary treated effluent flows through. Right now, there is no preventative option if the secondary process goes down, and the project that we are proposing for the Channel 4 diversion gate would provide a bypass for secondary flow to go all the way back to the in-plant sewer, allowing the plant to continue its regular process and prevent any contaminants from going to the tertiary LA River or from any further plant shutdowns. The Channel 4 diversion gate project will allow the activated sludge to normally operate and provide a means of bypass for the secondary treated effluent and go further from there without any disruptions to the plant. We are justifying the sole source for the Rotork actuators and the Crone magnetic flow meters because that is a standardized system that LA SAN uses, and they are trained to maintain and operate these equipments already, and it would be more efficient for them to continue using these standardized equipments. And as Commissioner James had said, it does make up less than 10% of the not to exceed amount of $600,000.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Any questions at all, Commissioner Jacinto, on number 1?
Thank you, President James. Crystal, thank you for this report and request. So this is a safety mechanism to prevent anything going into LA River, and we haven't had this feature before.
Correct. Right now, there's nothing to really create a bypass option for a secondary treatment failure. If it were to fail, it could potentially let contaminants flow into tertiary or into the LA River, and we are trying to install this to prevent such an event.
Okay, and this is just one actuator gate that we're purchasing, correct?
Correct.
Very good. Thank you, Crystal.
This is giving us a level of redundancy. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. Anything further? Commissioner Jacinto's made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1. I'll second it along with Commissioners Rivas and Repenning. Any objection? With that objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send number 1 forthwith. Oh, real quick, Mr. Jordan, just for the record. On the sole source justification, are you satisfied with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Then that'll be the order on agenda item number 1, and we'll send it forthwith. Thank you, ma'am. Agenda item number 2, Council Districts 5 and 10, requested contract award La Cienega Interceptor Sewer Rehabilitation Black Welder to Olympic Project, recommending that the board first find transmittal number 1 to be unmerited as discussed in the board report. Secondly, declare Keywood Infrastructure West Company the first low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder and award them a contract for the project for $21,455,000. And third, authorize myself or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained by the city attorney. We have Jen Wen to begin. We have Ms. McGlinchey present as well regarding questions during our discussion, and we have 3 speaker cards from the second low bid as stated in the report. So what we do is, for a real party in interest, I don't put the 2-minute time limit on the speakers. If you're all 3 aligned with the same entity, which you are, you can decide in what order you would like to speak. But the only time I will step in is if you stray from the item or start to repeat yourself. So, but we do like you to have the the time that you feel you need to be heard on the item for your issues to be considered. So, Mr. Nguyen, we'll start with you to summarize this on what you're recommending.
Good morning. Thank you, President James. My name is James Nguyen. I'm from Bureau of Engineering, Wastewater Conveyance Engineer Division. We're here to request to award a contract of the $21,455,000 for the La Cienega Interceptor Sewer Rehabilitation Black Welder 2 Olympic project. This project is located in Council District 5 and Council District 10. The project will renew approximately 2.5 miles of sewers in the Wilshire and the West Adam areas. The sewer is 90 years old and in poor condition. The pipe size ranges from 33 inches to 63 inches. This portion of the alignment ran adjacent to the city of Culver City and city of Beverly Hills, ran through private properties like Don Edward Pen Store and Kaiser Permanente, and ran through the Caltrans right away and crossing the Beulah Creek. This project also construct local sewer to intercept the existing house connections. The contract duration is 810 calendar days. 6 bids were received on December 14, 2016. QA was the first lower bidder with the bid amount of $21,455,000, which is 1.01% higher than the city engineer estimate. Based on the range of the bids that we received, we believe this bid is reasonable. QA is the certified local business. They have conduct a good faith outreach program. They pledge participation level of 0.03 of SBE and 28.32% of the OBE and 0% for other enterprises. Despite these numbers, though, we determined that the QA has complied with the business inclusion program requirement. This project incorporates a project labor agreement. The mandatory subcontracting minimum requirement for this project is 25%. QE has complied by pledging a participation level of 30.14%. We have received a bid per tax regarding the MSM. Linda from OCC will deliberate on that issue. Linda, would you?
Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. Ms. McGlinchey, so on the issue of the mandatory subcontracting minimum here, is that the board report references the communication from Spinello? So would you describe the issue here from the Bureau's perspective and the Bureau's response, and then we'll hear from Spinello?
Certainly. Linda McGlinchey, Bureau of Contract Administration. We had reviewed Kiewit's bid and their BIP documents. We found them to be responsive. They met all of the requirements, including the mandatory subcontracting minimum. As mentioned, they did pledge 30.14%. Spinello had protested, saying that they did not meet the MSM, and that had to do with the manufacturer that they had bid listed.
You say they had bid listed?
Kiewit.
Okay.
Sorry. Kiewit had listed Thompson Pipe Group / Amiantit, sorry, who is the manufacturer. And that has to do with the sub-bid that they received. That is the transmittal number 3. And as you can see, it has both companies' letterhead or logos at the top of the sub-bid, but it clearly states that Omnia is pleased to submit the below quotation per the general terms and conditions. Omnia is the manufacturer. This is something that we've had come up before where it's a manufacturer's representative. However, that puts together the bid. It's a practicality in terms of the manufacturer not being located in the United States. So they have contracts with manufacturers' representatives. In this case, the manufacturer's representative is not signing the contract. The contract will be directly with the manufacturer. The manufacturer's representative will then simply get a commission paid to them by the manufacturer. So while Kiewit listed Thompson Pipe Group / Omniet, we confirmed these are two separate companies, and the contract will actually be with Omniet. Therefore, we gave them 100% credit for listing the manufacturer.
And that put them over the 25% to 30%?
Correct.
Okay, just for the record, the delta, if you will, between the listed first low bidder, Kiewit, and at $21,445,000, and Spinello, the second listed low bidder, is at $22,511,992, is roughly $1,070,000, give or take, as a difference between the two, correct?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, per transmittal number 2, that's correct.
Any questions for Ms. McGlinchey, Commissioner Jacinto?
Thank you. Linda, is it confusing? Is it a requirement that Thompson has their letterhead or their logo on the bid sheet as well? I mean, I'm trying to...
We're finding that it is confusing to some of the primes. We've noticed recently a lot of the manufacturers' representatives, though, are clear in their sub-bids, like in this case saying Omniet is pleased to present the following. Others will say clearly to bid list, and they put the manufacturer's name on your proposal. So, but yes, there is some confusion. It has to do with they are not an employee of the manufacturer, so they're putting their logo on the sub-bid, but they in fact are representing the manufacturer, and in this case they are not in any way involved with the contract signing.
Correct. I mean, it's clear that it says Omniet.
Yes.
Is pleased to present, so I'm clear on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. Commissioner Rivas?
Hi. Also, my question's related to Thompson Pipe Group. So in the bid, they were listed as the subcontractor, right?
It lists both on the same line.
Like on the same line? Like
Yes.
As one,
So as one.
One company name.
Yes.
But they're two separate.
Correct.
In other cases, or I don't know if you've seen this before, do you normally then change it? I mean, that's where my confusion is.
Right. We're not actually changing it. We are taking the company using the sub-bid, which confirms who is actually submitting it, as well as the confirmation of who is signing the contract. We get clarification on that, and that's how we make our determination.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Repenning?
I have a question about something that was part of the transmittal packet, a report from August 20th, 2014 for the West LA Interceptor Sewer Rehabilitation Project, in which on page 4, I guess there's some note by the Bureau related to only being able to be claimed at 60%. How is that different than what we're looking at today?
I'm sorry, I don't have what you're talking about.
I see. Okay, so maybe we'll hear from Spinello, and then if you could take a look, and then we can discuss after.
Okay. Any further questions from Ms. McGlinchey before we go to Spinello? Okay. So I have Mary Ellen Scalera, I have Abdu Saidi, and I have, sorry if I mispronounce any names, Marion Hack, all listed for Spinello. So in whatever, I'd only prefer that you come one at a time, but but in whatever order you would prefer.
Commissioner James?
So I'll go to them afterwards.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
If I may interject, in case the representatives are wondering, what I did during the presentation from staff is, because it wasn't specifically called out in the board report, is I have the original bid from Kiewit, and so what I was showing them was how the particular entity was actually written on the bid sheet. So I presume you have that information, but it's the actual bid document where the firm was listed. So I've showed that to each of the commissioners because it was being discussed.
We have it. We don't have it here, but
Thank
we
you.
do have it.
You do have it, yes.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
President James, distinguished colleagues, my name is Mary Ellen Scalera. This is my first time appearing before this board. I am a vice president at Spinello Companies. With me is Abdu Saidi, who is a vice president out here in California, and our outside counsel, Marion Hack from Pepper Hamilton in Los Angeles. I have been chosen to speak because Spinello Companies feels very strongly about this, and so they've asked me to speak on their behalf. So please be patient with me. This is my first presentation. I also had cataract surgery, so I'm playing with some glasses. 2 times in the past 6 months, Spinello has lost very, very large bids to unresponsive bidders on 2 different NOS projects. That is why Spinello feels strongly that somebody from the company appears and speaks today. Spinello has been doing business in LA for 44 years. It's a family-owned company. I am part of the family, in fact. We have never been known, to be non-responsive or non-responsible. We have dedicated crews here in LA, people that live and work here, such as Abdu. And we have also, I think, partnered very well with the city of LA in many, many large projects, even stepping into the breach when there have been emergent matters that have happened to help the city deal with problems because of the different drought conditions, etc. We're here to protest Kiewit's bid and potential award because they didn't follow the rules in a big way. With the bid proposal submission and at the pre-bid meeting, all parties were advised, including Spinello and Kiewit, that the MSM must be met or a party would be deemed to be non-responsive. Spinello met the MSM at a cost, and we were the second lowest bidder. Kiewit, the lowest monetary bidder, did not. TPG, Thompson Pipe Group, is incorrectly listed as a manufacturer on the bid. It's listed as TPG/Amiantit. There is no such entity. TPG is a Louisiana corporation who is a supplier of pipe. Amiantit is a Polish company who manufactures the pipe. The city's approval of the Amiantit use clearly states that it's from Poland, and I think that's Exhibit 1. It's a letter from the city approving Amiantit at a Poland address. Kiewit's bid was not entirely truthful in representing that, 1, TPG and Amiantit was one entity. They are not. They represented TPG as a manufacturer. They are not. Represented that Amiantit is quoting a price when actually it is TPG. It is not a quote from Amiantit. Let's compare. Spinello met the MSM with the original documents, meeting the percentage. And Kiewit, if you properly calculate the TPG/Amiantit broker/manufacturer amount, that is discounting it 60%, they have not met the 25%. What is the harm in granting this contract to Kiewit? Well, you're awarding a contract to a contractor that has clearly not followed the rules. Spinello did. In fact, Kiewit will use only half the amount of local subcontractors that Spinello would. Kiewit's an $8 billion corporation that has quoted $4.6 million in pipe and only the use of $1 million in small and contractors, local contractors, and minority contractors. Spinello quoted much less in pipe and over $2 million for minority and small businesses. That is our understanding of what the city wanted. The city wanted the local people to be involved, to be given money, to be given a chance. And that Spinello has always understood this because we have people here that live and work in LA. That amount, allowing Kiewit to take the entire TPG Amiantit amount, gives them an unfair competitive advantage. TPG is one of the two providers of pipe for non-round sewer rehabilitation projects in the city of LA. And I was able to say that correctly, so just for the record, I struggled with that sentence. Where TPG was used in LA projects, contractors have always used the 60% MSM calculation, and the city has routinely accepted that 60% calculation. Here, Kiewit does not use that calculation in violation of the BPW MSM requirements and custom and practice for this pipe supplier. As such, if TPG is awarded this bid, it has succeeded in bypassing the BPW requirements and has obtained a huge competitive advantage. With all due respect to this board and the city, sanctioning this behavior is wrong. And to make things worse, if Kiewit is allowed to do this, the city has given its seal of approval for other contractors to do the same thing with TPG, which will lead to manufacturers being conflated with suppliers, and to allow clear MSM deficiencies to be inappropriately and belatedly corrected. And the result is pretty devastating because it will lead to the underuse of local businesses and minorities, which the city has taken such great measure to protect and promote. To be clear, Kiewit here has taken the TPG letterhead, which is used by TPG in all its quotes, after the MSM problem was raised and out of time, and put that the quote was from Amiantit. I have given everybody some copies of documents that compare the Thompson Pipe Group quote to Kiewit, which is number 2, and to Spinello, which is number 3. This is on the same project. And you'll notice that it has the same names on the top of the letterhead. But for some reason, Kiewit's quote later submitted says Amiantit, and it's highlighted, so it's difficult to read. Amiantit is pleased to submit this quote, and yet it's written from a Louisiana company, which is Thompson Pipe Group. You'll see that number 3 is the quote that Spinello received. And it says, "We are pleased to submit our quotation." So if you take a look side by side, everybody knew what we were dealing with. We were dealing with a supplier and a manufacturer. And Spinello properly calculated the MSM using the 60% instead of 100%. It's a material deviation which harmed other bidders, such as Spinello, who were using the same supplier and manufacturer. There's no legal entity called TPG/Amiantit. There's no legal affiliation. TPG is from Louisiana. Amiantit is from Poland. There's no joint venture between the two. It's abundantly clear that TPG is a supplier that buys pipe from Amiantit, marks it up, and sells it as part of these bid processes. Amiantit in Poland is clearly the manufacturer. TPG's price is marked up because that's how TPG makes its money. So LA is paying approximately $1 million more because of TPG's involvement that could go to an MBE or an LBE. And I was going to give an example, which is at number 4, which I believe that the president was looking at before, and others, an example of where this improper listing in a bid proposal occurred. It was at the West LA Interceptor Sewer Project, and you'll see the board report where they actually corrected Kolich's bid regarding the MSM calculation, and they reduced. Interestingly, it was a company named US Composite, but it was actually TPG's predecessor. That was reduced to 60%.
Go ahead and ask. You have a question?
Yeah, you said that they corrected the bid. Who were you referring to in your description?
I believe it was Kiewit, because the quote, and it's unclear how the...
Well, we have the document in front of us. That's a document that Spinello withdrew from?
Withdrew from.
There's a reference to Stephen Petrillo of Spinello. First low bidder requested that the board allow Spinello to withdraw its bid.
It's the board who made the correction.
The board made the... No, the board made the corrections.
The board made the
Yes, the board made the correction.
It'd be the Bureau of Contract.
Correct. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Okay, thank you for the
Would you answer my question now?
Sure.
This is the one, according to the board report, that Spinello, first low bidder, requested that the board allow Spinello to withdraw its bid for the project due to a mistake made in the preparation of its bid?
I believe
Yes,
so.
it
I
was.
believe so.
Yes,
Okay,
Spinello
thank
did
you.
make a mistake for that.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Go
Yes,
ahead.
that's the bid. Anyway, this is the same type of a situation. Interestingly, it was US Composites, predecessor of TPJ, and it was reduced to 60% because everybody knew that was the way to do it. And that is what was done. The error was spotted, the error was corrected, not by the bidder, but by a third party. And we're simply asking the board to be consistent and to do the same here. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I don't think, did you have anything, Mr. City? I don't think
I
has
was just
any.
here to respond to any technical questions if you had any.
Okay, what about, we have another speaker, Marion Hack.
I really think she covered everything pretty.
I was going to say, you were going to
Clear.
surprise me if you were going to come up with something that has not already been said.
I don't think I've got anything else. The only thing I want to add is that, this is akin to a little bit of a subcontractor substitution because you have an entity listed, now you're taking them out. So there's some question on whether there's some fairness involved with that because when you take one sub and move out the other, because you had a sub, Thompson, Avient, excuse me if I don't have that correctly, but now you've removed that and you put a new sub in. Normally, obviously, you do a subcontractor substitution hearing. In this case, obviously, both parties agreed to that substitution, but the problem with these substitutions is that there's some question of
Dealing
bid
with
shopping.
a substitution here?
No, the point is I'm saying is that
So
when
you're
you
straying
do
away
that,
a bit from what we're...
no, I'm not straying away. What I'm trying to point out is that you're making the substitution, which you're allowed to do because in this particular situation, both parties, you don't need a substitution hearing. But the point is that that could potentially lead to an unfairness to the second lowest bidder because you're allowing the substitution out. That's the point. That's all.
Did Spinello list Thompson Pipe Group slash Amianted in the same way in the bid?
You can answer that.
Spinello listed Channel Line, which is Thompson Pipe Group's
I've got
competitor.
Thompson Pipe Amianted listed in the bid.
That was
Is Mr. Nguyen, is this Spinello's bid?
I think that's yes. I think your statement was.
Commissioner, from the bid, it looks like, as you indicated, Thompson Pipe Group slash whatever that other name was written
Amianted.
down with a price, but then that was lined out, initialed, and then eventually Channel Line is written in the line below. So,
In the documents from Spinello?
yes.
Okay, thank you. We have a card from Kiewit as well. So do you want to hear from Kiewit or do you want to? Okay. So we have a representative from Kiewit, and then I'm going to ask Ms. McGlinchey for the Bureau's response to the documents that she's seen and the statements that she's heard. Paul Villanueva?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I don't know if were you here when I gave the admonition about the length of time?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I'm just going to make a simple statement. We believe you should look at the board report. It's pretty straightforward. We do sympathize with Spinello. There is some confusion amongst documents when they come out in interpretation, whether it's a supplier or a manufacturer. But we do a lot of work putting our bids together, and we believe we did it right the only way we could. These companies, all the companies that were mentioned, are all mutually exclusive. They're all kind of tied together. So you're kind of damned if you do or damned if you don't. And so we try to err on the cautious side by listing everybody there that's tied together. And I can't do business with one without the other. And so we have both listed there. We did have communications prior to bid that the way they had to quote it. And so we believe we did it the right way. And, you know, I think if you look at the board report, we made it simple for the city to rule on this. We're getting our quote from Amianti, and that's who we're going to subcontract this pipe to, and it's just that simple.
Any questions for? Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. McGlinchey, and sir, I'm gonna give you the opportunity. Well, anything you want to add based on what
Unless
you
you have questions for me.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McGlinchey. A couple of things, but I want to get to two statements that Ms. Scalera made that I think go right, at least I heard them as going right to the recommendation of the Bureau of Contract Administration. She made the claim that Spinello followed the rules and Kiewit did not, and I wrote down those words. She said that Spinello received an unfair competitive advantage. Would you address those two? Are those things that the Bureau of Contract Administration looks for? Are those things that you see here in your analysis of the bid and the protest and the recommendation? I'm going to have the same question from Mr. Jordan. Go ahead.
No, we feel that we are being very fair in our evaluation. We've had several of these instances. As a matter of fact, our Representative Kiewit did not mention it. We've got another project that will be coming to you later this year in which we will be recommending away from Kiewit for a similar situation where we are giving them broker credit for someone that they listed as opposed to manufacturer. In this case, though, we feel it's clear Kiewit's not getting a bid advantage. We are doing our best to apply everything consistently for everyone. The different manufacturers' representatives act a little differently depending on the company and the manufacturer's representative. Some of them do value-added services where we have to figure out if they're only supplying, only brokering, or doing a combination of brokering the material, but then doing some engineering services, which we would then credit them at 100% for. It's complicated with these types of things. I did note that Spinello's counsel made mention and made an assumption that Kiewit altered the Thompson Pipe Group subbid. You may want to ask Kiewit about that. My feeling would be that it was more likely, if you notice the bids between Kiewit versus Spinello that have been given to you, the tables are different, the dollar amounts are different as well. They're not exact matches. My feeling would be that Kiewit probably spoke with Thompson and wanted it clear regarding, in this case, Omniat is pleased on their subbid because of that other project that we'll be coming to you with, having already had issue with us on that project and being in, at the time of this one, we had already notified them that we were looking to recommend them as non-responsive, so they had gained knowledge from that. And I think for that reason, they may have wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what they were doing and getting the correct information on this, and that could be the reason why the subbids are different. Obviously, Thompson also, for whatever reason, they were quoting Spinello higher dollar amounts. If you look at the line item and unit prices on these, they're not the same. And that is something that subcontractors will do between different primes. So and that's why we have to treat it per the subbid, what it states.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan, on those two questions. Given your analysis of both of the bids and the bid documents that you've looked through, the question of one, does it appear, as Spinello has claimed, that Kiewit somehow did not, quote, follow the rules, quote, here. And secondly, do you see an unfair advantage in the Kiewit bid that does not exist in Spinello?
No, it appears the rules were followed. Kiewit, out of an abundance of caution, wrote down the name of the manufacturer that they're going to be contracting with, which is consistent with the quote that they received. But then they also wrote down the name of the entity Thompson that is physically located in the United States. But in taking a look at the total bid package, including the quote, it appears that the bid is being analyzed appropriately, and with the manufacturer of the product being given the appropriate amount of credit for purposes of the MSM.
Thank you. Just a couple more questions. Ms. McGlinchey, you've addressed the issue that I had a question about regarding the, let me find it, regarding the Thompson documents, the two where one says we are pleased and the other one says Amiantit is pleased. You've addressed that for me. I haven't heard from Kiewit on that, and I would like to, and then I'll go around the horseshoe. Mr. Villanueva?
Yes.
I don't know if Ms. McGlinchey's speculation was accurate or not, but what do you know of that?
Yeah, so like I said, we spend a lot of time working on estimates to bid to our public agencies, and so we expect to have different quotes from other contractors. We talk to them about risk. We typically pay them very well. We treat them very fairly. We expect better numbers. And so all that being said, we expect to have a different quote sheet than what they would send to anybody else. And so when I'm making requests of them, they're making a special quote sheet in most cases for me. And I believe that's just because of the way we do business, and they treat us the same way back because we're a fair contractor.
That's fine, but do you know whether or not there was a request made that the statements state that Antwit, or however we say the word, Antit? How do you say it?
Amianti?
Amiantit.
Yes.
Sorry. That Amiantit is doing the work, or did it previously come across as
No.
we, or did you ask for Amiantit, or did
No,
it come in that
we
way?
told them that it was going to be issue if it didn't come from Amianti.
So you
They
told them
prepared
it was
that
going to
quote
be an issue.
that way, yes.
And so that was the basis for that document.
Yes.
All right.
I mean, let me make something really clear, because there is questions with regards to these interpretations. If you specify a Ford in your documents, you can't go buy a Ford directly from Ford. You have to go through one of their local dealers, mutually exclusive. You have to deal with both of them. And so a lot of these companies, the equipment and major suppliers, work this way. And it puts the contractor in a terrible position trying to figure out who am I listing, which is why we always err on the side of caution to list both entities.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ms. McGlinchey? Anything that you heard just now, you speculated before, you now heard from Kiewit. Does anything you've heard change your recommendation on behalf of the Bureau?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Repenning?
I just wanted to, I guess, I am sympathetic to the folks from Spinello, and I appreciate that you came today to address us. I'm definitely sympathetic to the fact that you look to put inclusive proposals together for our department. You know, what's before us as the lowest bidder is obviously not meeting the goals that we've set along those lines, but it is the low bid. I think that for me, I appreciate the background that you provided in terms of you're in discussion with Kiewit on another project where you're recommending that they did not, that they're non-compliant. And so it sounds like as a result of those discussions, they took an extra step here to ensure that there was clarity because that was already on their mind. And so, to me in this situation, your recommendation is what I would go on, because I understand that you are very protective of meeting our MSM. And we see that because we're hearing other examples where you've recommended that no, this isn't meeting our MSM, or no, you can't double count that, or that's only 60%. So I see that you and the Bureau are being very thoughtful about making sure that the percentages are accurate. And so for me, I don't know where my colleagues are at. It's your recommendation that is what I would want to support in this case, because I do feel that you err on the side of being conservative as well. And so if you feel that this is compliant and responsive, then I would support that.
Thank you, Commissioner Repenning. Any other questions? Look, I don't know if it matters much that Spinello lists Thompson Pipe Group / Amiantit the same way Ms. McGlinchey has referenced in their bid document. Ms. McGlinchey has referenced the confusion that happens in this circumstance. My concern is that we have a circumstance where we're being asked to spend over $1 million because of what might be a technical glitch that doesn't give anybody an advantage one way or the other, that both parties at some level made the same mistake, if it's a mistake on. But as Commissioner Repenning mentions, one party goes the next step to solve it. I know both of these firms' names very well because as as the representatives from Spinello mentioned, they do work here. They presented a board report where something that they asked for was granted by the Bureau and the board back in 2014. We see them fairly regularly. We know that we have a good working relationship with them, and we want to continue to do that. But I agree with Commissioner Repenning that in this instance, we don't see in the, Ms. McGlinchey, could I ask you another question? Because I'm about to make a statement that we may or may not know have in front of us, other than the representations made from the podium. Once the decision is made on Kiewit, were there MBE, WBE analyses done by the Bureau of Contract Administration on the Spinello bid?
No, since we look at the low bidder, if we're recommending to the low bidder, we do not, figuratively speaking, waste staff resources.
Go through and confirm all that.
Right, for someone that we can't recommend to. I can tell you that historically, in the last 5 years, Spinello has had 2 contracts awarded. Cumulatively on those 2 contracts, their pledged participation was 5.74% MBE, 0.45% WBE, 6.48% SBE, 5.78% EBE, and 42.51% OBE. Kiewit, by comparison, on page 5 of your board report, has in 9 contracts awarded over the last 5 years, pledged 0.28% MBE, 8% WBE, 2.89% SBE, 0.28% EBE, 0% DVBE, and 28.37% OBE.
So, thank you, Ms. McGlinchey. That's very helpful. The point I was going to make, and you've supplemented it, I'm glad I interrupted myself to call you to the podium, was that on this project, while we don't see the numbers from Kiewit, frankly, that we would like to see, we don't know what the numbers are from Spinello because that analysis wasn't done. They made a representation to us that their numbers were inclusive. But what we can do is what you just did, and that's look at the contracts that have been recently awarded to Spinello, where they had some strengths and weaknesses in their numbers, compare them to the numbers from Kiewit, where they had strengths and weaknesses in their numbers. When you put the 2 numbers together, I'm even more comfortable with the statement that I'm going to make that I think that we don't have much of a choice here. I don't recommend spending an additional $1 million of taxpayer money because of what might be a confusing technical glitch that arguably at some level both parties made on the arguments that were before us, and therefore my recommendation is to stay with the Bureau of Contract Administration's recommendation. My admonition to the contract awardee in this instance regarding the MBE and WBE numbers that we like to see is still there, but it's been cured in effect, at least partially, by the numbers that you just described, particularly regarding their WBE numbers on contracts that they have recently received from the city, in addition to Mr. Jordan's and Ms. McGlinchey's response to the claims of unfair competitive advantage and breach of the rules of some sort. So with that, Commissioner Penny?
I had one more question.
Yes.
In terms of how we work when companies are putting together a proposal for us, are they allowed to call staff with questions like these?
Absolutely.
So that would be the one thing that I would say to everyone, because it sounds like everyone's trying to do the right thing. No one wants to be deemed unresponsive. And so I would suggest that that folks avail themselves of the opportunity to call our staff and ask if you have a question. if you think you're not sure whether you want to take it as 100% or 60%, call and find out so that we don't, so that we can reduce the number of occurrences like this one.
All right, thank you. With that, I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2. Is there a second? Is there a second? Commissioner Rivas?
I had a quick question. If someone were to call you with listing the supplier versus the manufacturer, how would you answer? Is it just depending on each supplier-manufacturer relationship?
It does depend on each supplier-manufacturer relationship. We've gotten to know some of the manufacturers' representatives and know where they fall. Some of them we have to evaluate on each proposal because it varies. But I would discuss with them how we determine a manufacturer versus a supplier versus a broker, in terms of who's signing the contract, who's taking possession of the product, how it's being delivered. All of those go into it. Generally speaking, along those lines, if they're not sure, my recommendation to them would be to assume at a broker credit, which is the least amount, if they're looking at it for passing MSM, because then their worst case scenario is they're going to have a higher pledged MSM if we determine otherwise.
Okay. Because, yeah, for a lot of these products, you have to go through a U.S.-based supplier or manufacturer's representative to order them.
Yes, and what we've found is some of them may actually manufacture some products, supply some, and broker some. And so depending on what they submit, we're giving them we're having to go back to our high school algebra to calculate the actual participation based on what they're providing to the contractor.
Yes, because you see Thompson Pipe Group, their relationship with another manufacturer may be different. Right?
Correct.
It could be the broker in that case, in this case, supplier or anything, right? Okay, so you couldn't just, every time you see Thompson, there are
It's not
supplier.
black and white.
Okay, that's confusing. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivas. So I put a motion on the floor. Is it second? Was it seconded? Commissioner Repenning, any objection? Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Any issues sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am. Other than the... What? No, we're done. Is there a second to my motion that we had approved the meeting minutes from the meeting of Monday, March 6, 2017? Second by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll approve those meeting minutes. Mr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. President, we do have an adjourning motion before you close the desk.
Yes, Commissioner Rivas?
Thank you. Today I'd like to adjourn our meeting in honor of Bertha Elizondo Deichler. She was born in 1957 in the San Fernando Valley, graduated from San Fernando High School. She died last week. She leaves her husband, Bill, 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild, and lots of cousins that loved her, including myself. My family lost someone unexpectedly, and, just want to honor her today and adjourn in her memory. Thank you.
Thank you. We are adjourned.